What is up, everyone? Drew, Sherb, Hunter here with a special edition Misfit podcast. If you were used to tuning into the Unprepared podcast, the Coaches podcast, or the
Unprepared
Misfit Project. I was going to say Team Misfit, sort of Team Misfit. Or the Misfit Project. Today you get to tune into really kind of the specifics of what we do here at Misfit Athletics, and that is programming. Today's episode is the Phase 2 programming episode. We're going to take a deep dive into sort of how Phase 1 blends into Phase 2, what it's all about. So quick housekeeping items. We are brought to you by Pure Spectrum. Head to purespectrumcbd.com. Use the code word Misfit. I was in, along with some other people, a terrible car accident in a couple weeks. It'll be 4 years ago down in Miami. And ever since then, I've had a really tough time getting into deep sleep. I've used the Whoop, the Apple Watch, the Oura Ring, all those things, hoping that if I wore a different wearable, that it would tell me that I'm getting into deep sleep. Did you try
all at once?
Yeah, I wore them all at once, and they didn't.
The synergy
didn't give me deep sleep. I actually don't think that's how that works.
Maybe. And
essentially what happens is I have to sleep longer, and I still don't feel super refreshed in the morning, and it's kind of pretty distinct line drawn in the sand. I've upped my dose of the CBD. We just upgraded to the black labels, 2,500 milligrams in a bottle, and I've been waking up early again for the first time in years without setting an alarm. So it's nice to wake up after a normal, like, human amount of sleep. You know, that 7.5 to 8.5 hour range, as opposed to, like, I could sleep 9+ hours on the weekend.
Easy.
If I wanted to, which isn't necessarily, you know, what you want for your circadian rhythm. So it's made a big difference. I do actually feel better when I wake up early. My wife keeps asking me what's going on, why I'm not in bed, like, especially on the weekends, especially past like 8 a.m., which was sort of my old routine. So it's been really helpful for me. PureSpectrumCBD.com. Use the code word Misfit. We're also brought to you by Sharpen the Axe. A few days after this podcast is released, another winter collection from STA. We got some crews. We have some really nice. How long have the capris been in development?
A full year at least, if not 18 months, if not 2 years, if not, I don't know, a long time. quite a while.
So we're really excited for that. Some good stuff coming out. SharpenTheAxeCo.com. This is not the Unprepared podcast, but you can use the code word Unprepared to save a little bit of dough. And last but not least, Hunter is going to tell you a little bit about TeamMisfit.com.
Yeah, TeamMisfit.com for your affiliate and their programming. We have 2 programs, if you're unfamiliar with it. A competitor program, which follows a little bit more of the structure that Misfit Athletics does, like the stuff that we're going to talk about today, or the GPP program, written separately, equally as effective, really fun program. And one thing we did are continuing to do is add free specialty class programs. So if you subscribe, you get obviously the monthly or the daily programming provided to you, but you also get access to multiple weeks of what we have right now is 2 specialty classes, 2 weightlifting classes, designed for affiliates that have maybe that specialty class at the gym here. We run that twice a week to give members kind of the option for something different. So you get those classes and can kind of insert them into your program, whether it's in a specialty class or maybe you even use it as a CrossFit class like twice a week or something like that. And then other thing we upgraded for this month and will continue to do so is we got a whole bunch of videos, kind of video demonstration, explanation for things like warm-up movements, mobility, even some movement progression type stuff. And we're going to continue to add to that library to make it even easier for you guys to kind of see what we're getting at with the affiliate program and hopefully adopt it or adapt it to make it your own to kind of become... To continue to develop as a coach, which is what we're shooting for. But
I want to bump the specialty class a little bit. I think we balked at it for a long time here. Where does it fit into your schedule? Can you run them at the same time as your other classes? And we finally bit the bullet and added, what we call engine class and what we call the Olympic weightlifting class. And it's been really nice when you're looking for true variance within a program. Having dedicated classes for something like that where you can really take a full hour to break down the lifting Whereas, a lot of programs, a lot of affiliate classes, you either, if you do only the lift, the members might not feel like they got the right stimulus, or you have to rush through how you're teaching it and whatnot. So those have been a really awesome addition, here. So,
and I would say don't undersell the fact that the engine class has been such a success. We've been trying to get people to do more of the like less sexy, less fun, unstructured things, or structured things like sitting on a bike for a really long time or spring on a skier again. When you have a class like that, when you can really focus on nuances and movements that sometimes just get said, like, yeah, it's 30 cal row onto the kettlebell snatch or something complicated, and those things like lose their luster or lose their coaching aspect. It's been really fun to watch us, see our coaches out there really take charge of a program that, if you read it at its face value, like, it's 5 by 500 meter row. What's to teach? But there's a lot to teach, and our members are really like eating it up. So like, I don't want to just, glorify the lifting program. I think the engine class has been really cool to see as well.
Yeah, and we're working on putting that out, and just we'll continue to provide programs so that hopefully in another 6 months or so, you're paying for affiliate programming, but you've also got like 5 other programs that you can choose from and cycle into your affiliates training. So teammisfit.com for all of that stuff to get some trial, free 2 weeks, all kinds of good stuff.
Chia.
Beautiful. All right. It's phase 2. It's phase 2 already, which is crazy. Feel like we shot a podcast a couple weeks ago to announce the new phase structure and all that. Time flies. I'm really excited about this podcast because we get an opportunity to continue telling the story of what's actually happening here. Having all of these ideas in your head and, being out programming phase 3 and phase 4, like, it's almost like, I don't know, shooting like a TV show or something like that. And people are kind of confused with what the hell's going on. Like, it's nice to be able to continue to tell the story. It's really fun. So again, the phase structure, what we're really trying to do here is marry the concepts of progression of, I want to get better at said thing, and it's going to take me a while to get better at it. So what's the structure? How do we progress? How do we create these mesocycles and whether it's a lift or a machine or accessory work, whatever it is, but also, be really dedicated to GPP. We need people to be ready year round with the sanctionals. So it's been really fun writing all of it. And the more that we get to share with you, more exciting, I guess, is the easiest way to put it. So pretty standard phase podcast here. I'm going to go through the strength, everyone's favorite part, and then you can tune out when Hunter's talking about the Metcons.
Favorite part of everybody.
Just kidding. We'll go through the Metcons, talk a little bit about the skill work, talk a little bit about the optional accessory stuff, and obviously chat about some big picture things. I don't know. Do you think people are excited that the volume squat cycle is back?
Yes, I have athletes who have been specifically requesting it. It's like,
the same way people get excited for the open.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah. Same way people get excited for assault bike sprints.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. That's going to be terrible.
I don't know if I'll do it though.
Hey, good news. It will be.
So for anyone that's new to Misfit Athletics, the volume squat cycle is linear progression, 5x5 on Monday, 4x4 on Wednesday, and 3x3 on Friday. If you saw the percentages towards the end of it now, you probably would say, I can't, or no thanks, or whatever. But we progress you 2.5% at a time. And it's actually really interesting what days feel smooth and what days don't. Like sometimes that first 5x5 is really hard, even though it's the lightest day of the entire cycle. And then you're in like somewhere smack dab in the middle of it. And you just have this day where you're like, oh shit, this is really working. Like I can feel it working already. And it's only like week 3 or week 4.
I remember doing them, a couple years ago and getting into it. And you're after Wednesday, you're like, how the hell am I going to squat on Friday? And then the following week, you're like, man, Wednesday was brutal. And you do Fridays, you're like, I'm ready for this shit. So like, I remember there are quite a few training days in the past where like I get in the squats and I'm like, that might be it for today because, it's meant to be overloading. It's meant to be very, very difficult. So like the one thing I'd say to you guys is make sure you take your time. We have a warm up scheduled on the blog, but do whatever you need in addition to that to make sure you're ready for it because it's a session in itself if you want it to be.
Warm up and cool down could be the biggest reason why you either try to survive this cycle or you actually do really well in it.
Yeah.
I think it'll be good too because for the first time in really like a really long time, we did not mandatory back squat
Right.
for an entire 7-week period, which I think is really good. I think it's good to get away from that. I think people it's like everybody's crack. It's like, I know, like, yeah, sometimes I hate it when it comes around, but like I need it. I need my back squats once a week. Otherwise, I'm gonna lose every single ounce of strength
that's totally
that I have
our
in my
fault
body.
too.
Yeah. So yeah, and so what I was getting at is that you can test. You're going to test your 1 rep max in test week, obviously, and it's a really good opportunity to maybe. For some people, I wouldn't be surprised if you PR after the deadlift cycle we had, especially if you did a hex bar variation of that. But it's a good time to like make sure it's a quality 1 rep max squat. Base your percentages off of that, not the one you hit in high school when you were squatting to a
Box squat.
36-inch box, like, and your coach was like, "That's good,
Fine.
Like, yeah,
Rep.
fine, good
Curtsy.
rep." And then base your percentages off that, and you will be successful. If you overshoot it, week 2 will be impossible.
Right. And the kind of the story here to tell from phase 1 to phase 2 is that dedication to the posterior chain, where we really kind of feel like with the movements that are required within the sport when we're actually competing, not anywhere near as much posterior chain. Part of that's movement based. Part of that's, how do you move? Do you move efficiently? Do you use everything you can? But part of that's just, it's a sport. A lot of sports are frontal plane, but obviously that support system, having that like armor on your backside is super important. And what we find is a lot of athletes within our community rely so much on the bounce or so much on a really odd looking squat variation where it's like, okay, at the end of the day, we don't actually back squat in our sports. We need skill transfer here. This is supposed to translate to overhead squats and front squats and all these other movements. So we wanted to do in the new phase structure, like really dedicated central nervous system work with the deadlift, with the posterior chain. Now we're passing that work along to the back squat. We have on the same day as the back squat in week 1 for the test, and then throughout the rest on day 1, we have optional push press. And the optional push press is here. I don't know. It's hard to say that. Push press. Is here as a continuation of all that pressing. You've done the strict press. You've done the bench press. And I mean, at the end of the day, it's one of those things. If you are more of a fast twitch athlete, a lot of people don't necessarily need to do this. We're going to do a ton of pressing within the optional accessory work, obviously a ton of pressing through push-ups and handstand push-ups and, all that good stuff. But there's still, that subsection of people that really need to they need to keep that like higher weight pressing going the entire year.
And we just talked about it last phase too, is to press, you must keep pressing. Like the whole, you said Russian adage, like I have athletes that as soon as you take away strict handstand push-ups or as soon as you stop going away from bench press or strict press, feel like that completely goes away. So,
right.
You're finding someone that struggles with pressing's not your jam, keep doing it, man.
I think the push press is maybe the most underrated lift that we don't do quite as often in CrossFit. Like very few movements allow you to overload or create such like an aggressive hip extension and then drive something overhead
and still actually press.
Need to be
just get to
have
catch
like
it.
a strength and not just like push yourself under it. So I think that's really good. And just coming on the heels of pressing 4 sessions twice a week over the course of phase 1, like that would be good to see how much weight people are putting overhead.
Absolutely. And just a quick thought, guys, on the push press, there could be another reason to do it. There are a lot of people that don't necessarily put weight overhead in the correct way. Maybe you have that pressing strength. Maybe you're really good at handstand push-ups, strict handstand push-ups. We see so many people push their hips forward early in this movement before their knee locks out, sort of just like a kipping handstand push-up.
Booty bump.
And we don't stay within the structure of our skeleton. So like I want to dip like really into my heels, keeping the big toe down, but dipping into my heels and driving my heel down so that I really get that knee extension. And then as I'm standing up and I'm going to press, dip portions already happen. I'm, in the drive phase, your hip does open. But this idea that you're throwing it forward and your weight is forward and then you're trying to press overhead in that banana shape, it's not going to do all that much for you. And if it's coupled with the wrong thing in a Metcon, it gets really bad.
Yeah.
So if you're trying to clean up your pressing, which will then translate, to the push jerk, that would be another really good thing to do. For our power only this cycle, we have alternating weeks of power clean Imams. The power clean Imam can be used both as like, hey, let's get stronger in the power clean, let's work on our technique, but also add a little bit of a speed pull from the floor, which can actually take the place in a lot of strength programs of the deadlift. So what we do here is we add this in to make sure that we're still adding some speed pulls to the floor, and then we make sure that there's some pretty damn heavy deadlifts and some conditioning pieces throughout the cycle. And then we're actually able to find out, is that deadlift work that we're doing that's on its own actually worth, its weight once it's in the actual sport
We care
itself.
about being able to create force in our sport and be able to move heavy barbells for long ranges of motion. So, as great as the deadlift is, it gets tested in competition very, very seldom. So it makes more sense. Can you move that weight at X percentages, or can you move it with speed to get it from the ground onto your shoulders versus just from the ground to your hip? So it's a chance for you to see how much your work last phase pays off into, being able to move heavier power cleans and being able to pull for longer periods with heavier weight. Like, to me, as great as it is to sit out there and pull heavy singles in the deadlift, it doesn't really get me a lot of utility when it comes to like general fitness.
Right.
It's something that we need to have, but not something we need to recall upon every single day when we're training.
I'll try not to harp on form the entire podcast, but when you watch like All Things Gym Instagram or any of those really cool like weightlifting Instagram pages, and you see the guy that still just power cleans, like he's getting ready for the Olympics and he power cleans until he can't anymore, and I think he just power cleaned 450 pounds, something like that. Anyways, you see those people and you can't even really wrap your mind around what the movement is. It's like, I don't do that.
Yeah, for sure.
Whatever is different about that, I don't do it. And the difference is the pull and then the elbows through, all one continuous motion. Like, it's sort of like the person that gets their hips as high as they can and the muscle up, waits a really long time, and then tries to send their upper body through the rings.
Trying to separate the movements.
There are different parts of the lift, but it's no different than having a hitch somewhere between the floor and your hip. Like that person, you tell them to slow down and then they get that weird, like it looks like they're trying to draw circles with the barbell or something.
Just shaving their legs real quick,
Yeah. So with the power clean, and then a lot of athletes that do that well don't hit extension very well. So marrying these concepts of I'm getting this nice pull, I'm getting through extension, but then I'm pulling into the front rack all as one continuous motion. I would rather see an athlete stay down near the 70% range, even on the triples, and learn how to do that so that when they're in a Metcon and they need to be able to do that at a heavier weight, you get to sort of surpass people that are stronger than you because you're doing it right.
Second nature.
And then the other one's really simple, high rep touch and go power snatch. That's what that's going to alternate with. We do not have percentages on the touch and go power snatch work. That is on purpose. Where do you start? You start at a weight that you know that you wouldn't go touch and go with in a Metcon, but also leave room to go up.
Yeah.
So let's say, you choose 155 pounds. You're like, if it was 155 power snatches in this workout, there's no way I'm opening with 9. But someday I'd like to be able to. There's some 975, 155 power snatch and burpees or who knows, whatever it is.
Gross.
Yeah. You'd love that workout.
You're doing that for sure.
You want to be able to continually make tiny little steps up to that. And it doesn't mean, again, that you have to translate that into the Metcon. It'll kind of do it itself. So we want to leave a little bit of room there. You can go up, you can go down. It's really more about getting those reps in, that touch and go rep in, and making sure that you're actually, working towards getting something done. I'm pretty excited about the 4-time work in the strength. So we have squat snatch and we have squat clean and jerk.
That's going to be fucking awful.
Yeah, the squat clean and jerk is going to be really special.
It's going to be a whole day in itself.
Like the squat snatch is hard enough, but the squat snatch reminds me of the intensity is freedom. Like when you're within a squat snatch, especially if you're touch and go, takes so much thought. Like you have to really think about how you're moving. It's like when you do a big set of muscle ups and like you were dead tired before, but for some reason you weren't breathing heavy on the rings. And then the second your feet hit the floor, you feel like you're going to die. The squat, clean, and jerk is that way every second that you're doing any of the movement.
I think I think you're overcomplicating it. It's a difference between squat, snatch triples and clean and jerk triples.
But I really do think
it's a clean
that
and jerk. It's
the
a
metabolic
Metcon.
demand is high, like very high with the squat snatch. But because you have to be so in it, like you can screw up a squat clean and still stand up. You can screw up a jerk and still press out. You like really screw up your squat snatch when you're going for reps at 75 or 80%. You just drop the bar.
That's why it's easier.
So yeah,
You
we
just
have
fucking fail.
we have during the strength work a set amount of reps at a set percentage for time, then rest, then reps, then rest, then reps. And what we're doing here is we're blurring the lines between is this strength work, is this conditioning work? The answer is yes. That's what our sport is. But you can think about it within the confines of how you would, add volume to chest to bar pull-ups, muscle ups, what we do in the skill stuff. Obviously much more metabolically demanding within the strength, but we're working on getting better at moving barbells purposefully under fatigue, but not like you just had to row a 1K.
Yeah, I think it's a good continuation of the touch and go squat snatch and squat clean that you guys did in phase 1 when you were doing 6s, 5s, 4s, and now the reps are going up a little bit, but it's the full lift. It's some of it's touch and go, some of it's not going to be. I think it's good. It's the next like kind of logical step in getting like that barbell conditioning up.
Yeah, and that's a good point because you should know what you're supposed to do there.
Well,
if a workout opens at that exact same rep and weight set, that's more information that you have. You're at a local comp, you're at a sanctional, you're at the CrossFit Games, and you find out, okay, it's this. And you're like, wait a minute, I've done that before. I have opened, like, seems a little crazy, but I have opened with 10 squat snatches at 205. I know what it feels like. Travis is going to do 7 no matter what, on touch and go. Yeah. Maybe you do 2 touch and go. Maybe you do singles, whatever it is. But having that information before you actually get tested is super important.
And you found that the barbell ladders are like the favorite way for them to test your barbell cycling ability these days. That's essentially how every single CrossFit Games for the last 4 years has gone. Many sanctionals do that. They set up the floor and you got to race across the competition floor with 6 to 8 other athletes. It's good to know what those are at. I mean, we just watched Dubai where they had to do power snatch, hang power snatch, squat snatch, and it would be good for them to know exactly what that number is and how you're going to attack that, because you have someone who's a monster at it, they're going to hang on to the whole thing, and you got to figure out, all right, well, if they're going to hang on to the whole thing and I know I can't do that, what can I do to stay within the realm? So for me, it's just, training that barbell ladder you see at high level competitions, and you got to know what that is.
When are we going to program candlesticks and fucking
Bam-bams?
TRX rows and
what's a candlestick?
You ever seen that? The
Pogo
Dubai final thing? Like the lay down and
yeah,
get back up?
I mean,
is that going to be can that be a staple in our...
Those are accessory exercises for a reason. I'll leave it at that. Okay, so moving on. We are going to spend a ton of time cleaning up our clean. Pun intended. So...
Zinger.
You're...
God damn it, Hunter.
So you are going to go through a progression of warming up at pause power position. We'll make sure you guys have some good videos for this. You're going to get a lot of work in cleaning above the knee when we remove variables from the clean, like the first pull, like getting from that big leverage position back to power position, and gradually add those variables back in. We find that is when an athlete can really figure out how to do the movement. So we are going to spend an entire cycle on this. We got about half of the cycle above the knee. We got about half of the cycle below the knee, and all of the warm-ups will be in there to give you an opportunity to make sure that even just within a 20, just a 1 day period, you're making sure that the position that comes after is already nailed down and perfect. So you're only adding a little bit extra when you go into your strength session there. That is, the sort of a phase 3 teaser here. We will go from that to a very heavy clean cycle, like really working on what happens if a 1 rep max comes up, what happens if there is a ladder and you have to do, like really heavy sets of 4, 5, 6, whatever it is.
Let's go.
So there's because it's the clean especially too, you're going to be able to get some really good strength adaptation anyways. You're going to be able to put some weight on the bar if your hands are bigger than mine. So really, really awesome thing that we've done for years, and it's found its home here in phase 2. So I'll stop running my mouth here about the strength work. Hunter, what's going on in the conditioning?
Oh yeah. So this phase we're kind of targeting from a gymnastics perspective, toes to bar and handstand push-ups. So our test piece, forest pump, I'm pretty excited to see that. Good.
It's a sassy workout.
A really good gymnastics test.
Sorry, Arnie.
I think a lot of people will get stuck. I think it's important to realize that when we say test, when it's a test workout, it's not always expected that you're going to be rolling around on the floor afterward, although it does finish with a 45 calorie row. So probably,
yeah.
But the 3 or 4 minutes before that, maybe not as much, because the movements don't necessarily elicit that unless you're a freak, but this is our kind of blessing on your toes to bar and handstand push-up capacity.
Yeah.
It's a good blend of both strict and kipping. I'll leave it at that, so you guys can look forward to that test piece when it shows up on Wednesday. But that will also drive a lot of the skill work that we're doing to give you the opportunity. We used to not necessarily kind of cater to the test, and I think there's value in that, but there's also value in giving you the test, then giving you the answers to the test, and then asking you to retake it.
Right.
And we know you're going to do better, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. Anytime you test and retest a workout, there's going to be some element of you're probably going to do better just by nature of knowing what to expect. And what we're doing with the skill work is not only know what to expect because you've actually done the workout, but you now have the capacity to improve and you're confident that you can. So a little side tangent there for the skill work, but that, and then also muscle up, some more muscle up volume. You got a ton of opportunities to work on perfect muscle ups.
I've been blown away, by the way. You guys on Instagram have been crushing the muscle up progression, like really taking the time. Like it's not just, I don't see the like heave. Exactly. That's the word I was going to use. Like heaving muscle up to finish. Like people have really taken the time to get better at that stuff. And within our community, like really understanding what skill work is and why it's there. I've seen people talk about how they scaled it down a rep or two, like absolutely crushed it. So quick kudos to the crew.
Yeah, it's awesome. My two of my remote athletes saying like, one, like Gustav, he's a bigger dude, not somebody you'd expect to love muscle ups, but he was doing like the 7s or the 8s and was like, no problem at all. It's like 40 muscle ups in a relatively short period of time. So we're going to give you the chance now we're going to start injecting those quite a bit more in conditioning and interval, like your more classic CrossFit style pieces. And the interval test, which has muscle ups, is also very special, but will definitely require you to draw from that skill.
Do you want to take a ride on the scary go round?
Yeah. And I mean, I think it's important to talk like you can't forget the 7 weeks of skill and energy and time that you put into that.
You literally can't, because if you do, it's over.
You're an idiot.
Whoa.
Oh, no, sorry. I thought you were saying if you do.
He's got a button on his desk.
No,
You're an idiot.
You're an idiot. I thought you were saying something different. Yeah, if you don't, then the workout's over in like 4 minutes.
Right.
Which I guess is good for you. But
maybe. Depends on what your goals are. To get worse.
So the conditioning pieces are a lot of them are not scaled, but tailored toward getting you better at those few tests. So you're gonna do CrossFit, you're gonna do a lot of it, you're gonna have optional pieces, and you're gonna have mandatory pieces. But
boom.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Like,
I mean,
I'll just
it's
be
funny
making shit up.
when we're divvying up who gets to talk about what. I obviously go first and take the one that most people are interested in. It's
always
hard to talk other than the test specifically. It's really hard to talk about the conditioning stuff. It's variance. It's some of it's muscle fatigue. Some of it you're supposed to be able to cruise through so that the reps build and build and build. Some of them you're supposed to wonder if you're ever going to breathe normal again. Like variance within energy systems, within movements, within rep schemes, keeping things changing as often as we can to make sure that there's actual adaptation occurring.
Yeah, I think that even with phase 1, just kind of the structure that we've adopted here, there are a lot of pieces that I think are pushing well beyond what has been established as kind of acceptable in terms of volume, in terms of loading, like within a workout. Like the one that I like keep looking at is like 60 bar muscle ups and the hang squat snatch piece. Like it's long. There's no place to hide. There's not a 400-meter run that you can quote recover on. You're going to be in the gym. You're going to be in one spot. You're going to be there for a really long time and you're going to be really uncomfortable. And then you're going to be me sore after.
It's going to be like me and you doing 19.5.
Yeah. Holy fuck. That's exactly what it is. Yeah.
That was a good show.
Was it?
Yeah.
For who?
Sure.
But yeah, I think we continue to push kind of what is acceptable. And it's not because like we're just trying to write like the hardest workout ever. It's because people keep getting fitter and prove that it's within the realm of acceptability.
I mean, the only way to get better is to overreach.
Yeah.
Like we talk about it almost every single phase podcast, but you overreach so that just a step back from that could be what's coming up in competition, and you dominate it. I mean, that was one of the things that when we talk to our games athletes that they always say, like, yeah, it was bad, but it wasn't as bad as the shit you make me do already. Like that kind of idea. So, be excited for more of that.
My turn?
Yeah, sure.
All right. Bitch work is back. Guess what? It never went anywhere. The focus this phase, is going to be a little bit different than the last one. The last phase we focused on anaerobic on the row, so really high outputs on the rowing machine and a little bit longer time domain on the C2 bike. I got a lot of athletes who are saying, I'm going to quit my life to do all these pieces because the C2 bike pushed them into the 40, 50, 60-minute time domain, but now it's our
what
sport.
It takes.
Yeah, our sport is mandating that you have that capacity and you have that ability to sit there. And even though you don't want to be there, maybe you're going to get better at that through experience. So, some more of the same in terms of like time domains and focuses, but the real shift is going to be this cycle is going to be an aerobic focus on the ski erg. So, we saw a lot of athletes see great progress with the fasted cardio, both on the C2 bike and on the rowing machine. But it's good for us to kind of change that up so that your capacity on the ski erg is as good as it is on the rowing machine or the C2 bike.
How do you guys feel about the long skis? Because I know that like everyone's like, you ski for 40 minutes?
I like it because it sucks and it makes people...
You would.
It's,
if no one enjoys it, he enjoys it.
It's good because the ski, it kind of sucks because time doesn't go as fast because your stroke rate is significantly higher than on the rower.
Yeah, yours might
and it's
be.
just way different to be like staring at the ground and like, it's just, for me, it's just the physical action of skiing is way less comfortable than rowing. For most people, I'm the opposite. So maybe that's why I'm saying I like it better because I would rather ski
time
for 40
flies
minutes
for me
than,
on the ski erg versus the other machines, which again, a lot of people would say, how's that possible? I actually find it to be like meditative. Like I feel like I get into a rhythm. Like typically what I'll do, sort of like meditating, is I'll count to 10 up and then back down. And like I will find myself like knock out like 2 or 3K like I normally would like be crying, like watching it go up 100 meters at a time.
I feel like my consistent pace on the ski erg is more consistent than it is on the rower. Like I will be able to.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
There's like the pace. Like
fluctuations aren't really there.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe I like that. Maybe that's why I like it better. But I do like how, because your stroke rate is higher, time seems to go by slower for a lot of people, and it's just like,
right,
I'm just gonna stand here and look fucking stupid for 40
Well,
minutes.
I really like the challenge too. For me, the way I look at it and the way I talk to a lot of athletes is I like to see you have a competent capacity both on the rower and the ski erg, and a lot of them are seriously lacking on the ski erg in comparison to the rowing machine. So me personally, I like to look at it as a challenge. Like, all right, how close can I stick my ski erg splits to my rowing splits? And I like to pass along that challenge to my athletes because they look at it and go, yeah, I mean, it's the same. It's a machine made by Concept 2. It counts meters pretty similar. I mean, definitely is a different, movement pattern, but the challenge of trying to have those two be combating for which one's better.
Yeah.
I think keeps people engaged. And for me, that's what I like to do is like, hey, how close could I keep? This is on a rowing machine. What would I hold? All right, that's going to kind of frame my perspective on what I should be aiming for maybe down the road with all my skiers.
I think it's going to complement the focus of toes to bar and handstand push-ups really well, just with that upper body, more of like that slow twitch upper body focus. Obviously, you're not using exclusively your arms, but you're certainly not using them less than you would on the rower as the only other option. Like you're going to having that ability to recover your upper body is probably more useful than
for sure.
Like it's just hugely useful.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the main reasons you would want an athlete to, row, ski, swim, do these things where it is higher turnover rate because there's just no other way to do it. Like you're not going to carry dumbbells around all day and do like 1 pound curls and presses and stuff like that.
Have you tried it though?
No, I have not.
Well, in addition to the
test that for next year.
Next year. In addition to the aerobic ski, we're having an anaerobic focus on the C2 bike. So, you guys have spent plenty of time on the assault bike, know what it feels like to go really, really hard on that. We want you to have a similar experience level with the C2 bike. So you're going to see a lot of short bursts, short time domains, high dampers, just standing on the pedals.
That's a real special kind of pain. Hunter cooked up one for affiliate recently, and I thought I was dying. I couldn't I could ski once I got there, but I couldn't stand up and walk to the skier.
You and I were going back and forth on whether or not it should be on the assault bike or on the C2 bike. And, we had done enough recently, had a couple pieces with a damper up high and you're standing and pedaling. And then the pump in your legs is it's otherworldly. Like the assault bike's great, but for me, that's a lot of lungs. I don't get that same stimulus on the C2 bike. So we want to build that same level of quad poisoning through the C2 bike versus the assault bike this phase.
And if anyone wants to nerd out at all on this phase structure and what we're doing, hopefully you actually did it. We just spent all of that time, fasted cardio and the aerobic work on the C2 bike so that you guys could learn how to flush your legs on a bike. I mean, obviously tons of transfer to other movements, but now we want to know, with that higher power output, what happens during those intervals? What happens in between? What happens in between then? And then what happens when you have the workout with C2 bike jumping lunges and wall balls that you're trying to figure that out, right?
Should be fine.
That flushing, all of that work, all of that, hey, do I even have time for this? I have, a family or I have a job or I have other things to do.
Current
I have stairs that need walking.
In theory, carries over very well to being able to recover from this stuff. And you get to find out, immediately if all that work, all that time paid off.
Yeah. I mean, from my personal experience, this is last year, we were doing all these fasted cardio C2 pieces. And then we had a day at the gym. It was just 12 calorie assault bike repeats, teams of like 8 or whatever, huge teams. So you're getting good rest after the first couple rounds.
Right.
And everyone else is complaining, my legs. I was like, oh, it's just lungs for me. And it was cool to see all the flushing and all the time spent on the longer pieces, all that time spent on the C2 bike, letting me stay at a level that previously I don't think I could have held, holding that wattage in the 13, 14, 1500 range on your 5th or 6th element or round of that is just typically not heard of. So it's kind of cool to see that, have that one-to-one experience. Like I did all this work and now I have this result. Now it's pretty cool.
Absolutely.
In addition to that, bench work will be 3 days a week of mandatory and 2 days a week of non-mandatory. As you've probably noticed with the phase, we typically program 7 days a week now. So you're going to have those two non-traditional working days, one being the fasted cardio, one being the swim day. The fasted cardio is going from the C2 bike over to the ski erg. Again, just giving you experience to stand next to the ski erg and spend some time on it. Again,
I'm in.
Unlike the other,
sit down on the ground.
Well, you can get in the box there, seated ski erg, but the opportunity to get some time underneath your belt. Like we want you to spend time. It's 10,000 hours exercise.
Yep.
The more you get on that thing, the more you do it, the more you make friends with it, the less you're going to be annoyed if we say, all right, you're going to ski 5K and then do this 4-round workout afterwards. We're essentially desensitizing you and getting you comfortable with this machine that doesn't have the same level of comfort that the assault bike or rower does. So you'll have that on day 4 each week is the fasted cardio, and again, like last phase, it will go up each week. And then I know it's not really my place, but the skill in addition to it is a really nice complement to that day. So you'll have, again, the fasted cardio followed up by some sort of gymnastics skill work. Again, just kind of giving you a little bit more of a robust day on that off day because we know you guys are going to do that anyways. And then coming back into day 7, your Sunday training piece, we'll be swimming. One thing we do want to say though, last phase we had essentially the first progression in the swim program. If you didn't do that in phase 1, go back to that. We're going to develop a PDF and put that out there for you guys so you can do the first progression before we move on to progression number 2. If you did do progression 1, you're ready for progression 2. But essentially, we've worked with Kenzie Riley, who's got a great swimming background. She's trying to help us with making sure that like we didn't miss one element because none of us were collegiate swimmers at any point in our lives. So, what can we pass along to you guys? And hopefully you find that, over the course of this entire season that you really develop that swimming capacity because it's part of our sport and it's not going anywhere. So get comfortable with that.
What are your thoughts on ordering of the skill work and the fasted cardio ski? Because we've got alternate between pulling gymnastics in the skill work and pushing, like handstand push up, that sort of thing. Obviously, that's a lot different doing that right after a C2 bike than it is doing a ski. You recommend people tack the skill work first so that you can have kind of that non-fatigued focus, or do it after, kind of get maybe a little bit more CrossFit-y stimulus?
I think there's 2 variables here. The first one is how much time are you spending in the gym? Some people on their rest day don't necessarily have as much time to spend in the gym as maybe someone who's a CrossFit coach or maybe don't want to be in the gym. I personally, most bang for your buck and best ability to actually recover, I would prioritize the skiing. Okay. That being said, if you do spend a bunch of time in the gym, I think you can do it in either order. I just think you should space it out quite a bit. Yeah. There will be some athletes, a little bit more on the slower twitch side, that will be able to go fairly close from one to the other. Right. Yeah. There are just some other athletes that haven't learned to really flush properly yet to clear waste, in the moment while you're actually doing your ski to move on to that. But unless you're just this absolute like aerobic beast and also really like the ski erg, I would prioritize the ski first.
Cool.
Yeah, same.
The only caveat that I'd throw in for the swim, if you're a really experienced swimmer and you think that starting with a 15-minute max distance swim is acceptable for you personally, you could hold freestyle for 15 minutes straight, really reach and breathe. I think it's okay to skip swim progression number 1. Yeah. If you're not sure, I guarantee you the 3 of us would tell you the answer to that is no. Start back at that 10-minute progression.
The only difference is the test and retest. It's a 10-minute ski instead of a 15. The volume's a little bit higher, but it's still like, it's not going to beat the shit out of you. Like the back squat cycle would.
And what's so unique about swimming specifically within the CrossFit space is that if you get like what would be considered like barely passable / like okay at it, you're better than almost everyone in the entire community at the movement. Yeah. So what does that mean? That means when you go to swim, do not be obsessed with your 50-meter butterfly. Like no one cares.
That's all Michael I was
Phelps,
working on.
Like shave your whole body.
I have been waxing my whole body.
Wear one of those suits from 2000 that they outlawed. Yeah, make sure that you're taking the time to try to learn how to swim.
Stuck a propeller in his ass and just swimming around.
Gentlemen, my goodness. Anything else on the bitch work, Sherb?
Outside of that, I definitely pay attention to the descriptions on the site. We try to give you insight into how to attack them because some of them, I'm just looking at give you for a little taste of week 1, day 1, 6 rounds, 2-minute jog, 90-second run, 1-minute walk. If you don't read the description and pay attention to the idea behind it, you're going to feel like you're just, walking around or jogging. You won't really feel the purpose behind it. So, I really want to make sure, you guys take the time to read those so you have the insight behind that, because unlike some of the things where it's like chest to bar and squat clean, like you know how to do those things, sometimes the focus behind the piece is missed. So just spend some time, read that real quick so that you have an idea, so that you get the intention of the piece.
Absolutely. Moving on to the accessory work. So we have 3 optional accessory pieces every single day. You should be used to it now if you followed phase 1. If you're new to this, it's optional for a bunch of different reasons, to be honest. The main one is just volume. Make sure that you're prioritizing your actual conditioning and, lifting where you get a little bit more bang for your buck. But we've had really good feedback on this. People have really enjoyed it. A lot of people that have cut down on volume a little bit have actually added that in as sort of like a prehab rehab sort of situation. And I haven't seen anyone do what we told them not to. So like, don't go super heavy on this stuff. Like, this is accessory work. This is about learning how to use the, maybe the smaller muscles, or use your posterior chain, or, sort of any of those things. So kudos to you guys to actually listening, during the podcast so that you can, do this stuff right. There is some new stuff in there. A lot of it's the more of the same. Again, accessory work is all about, we like to joke. We kip a lot. We use, we extend our hips a lot. We do a lot of core to extremity. And while that's all good and fun, a lot of people don't brace while they're doing that, and they end up messing up, their shoulder, their back, ankles, all kinds of different stuff. We just kind of flail around. We're allowed to make fun of it because we're actually in the community. So optional accessories, 3 per day. And again, you could even go into that and say, pick that one. Like, I want to work on this. I want to work on that. So just make sure that when you're going to the site, we try to spell it out as best as we possibly can. You have your mandatory work, you choose 1 or 2. And then after that, it says optional. So you're not choosing, based on the optional piece.
Yeah, the accessory piece is not included in your pick.
Exactly.
1 or 2 of your pieces.
I was going to say, if you subscribe to the complete tier, you actually get a chance to see what that is at the full head of time. So you can see all of the accessory pieces, all 15 of them for the whole week. Give an idea of which day it makes the most amount of sense, because, you may feel that like, I really don't want to do dumbbell bench press after, 200 burpees. I'm not really into that today, but you could plug that into another day. So, a little plug for the complete tier. You get a chance to see what these accessory pieces are and plug them in where they make the most amount of sense for you. Because really at the end of the day, to me, I look at it as, are you moving with purpose, and are you checking off the box on things that are important to you? Not are you just doing all of them and just doing whatever we say in terms of what day it is? Because for whatever reason, some days it may not work with you, and it might be good to move those to other days. Or, I have a couple athletes that will take out the pick your poison on the fasted cardio day, and it'll be accessory day. Just another way of mixing it up. So just another idea for you out there. Maybe don't have a lot of time, or you want to figure out another way to hit the accessory work that on a day that's not super busy like your normal training day. A great way to plug that in is having that complete tier and being able to see the whole schedule a full week ahead of time.
Just to touch a little bit more on the skill column here, we have skill work every single day. It's only mandatory a few days of the week, and obviously that's just to make sure that when it's not coming to what we're trying to accomplish specifically, especially for like the forest pump retest, that you're choosing the things that you actually need to work on. Yeah. So you ask yourself, okay, there's this movement, and I hate it, and every time it comes up in a Metcon, I can't really do it all that well. And we are giving you a structured way throughout the course of an entire cycle to say, okay, you know what? I'm going to get better at moving dumbbells. I love barbells. I hate dumbbells. I feel like they're flopping all over the place. I don't know if you guys have seen Sherb's front rack position. I was
just going to say, every time you say that, yeah, that's me. Like every single time you're like, yeah, if you suck at it, you probably should do this. Well, that's me again.
I only wrote it so that you'd stop doing that.
Please cut the shit.
But again, you can go down through and choose
dumbbell thrusters.
You can go down and choose what really works for you. And there are some progressions to it. Like last cycle, we did the perfect muscle up thing. This time we're saying, okay, now we're telling you exactly how to chop up some sets, or it's actually multiple sets back to back to back. So we are going through progressions on that stuff. Your standard handstand walk, toe to bar, getting a little bit better with moving the dumbbells and the kettlebells, rope climbs, legless rope climbs. We're trying to make sure that you can pull something that you struggle with when you're breathing really heavy and maybe your grip's gone or your pressing is gone, and you get to work on it on its own. This might be one of the areas that people need to scale the most and don't actually scale.
Is skill work?
Is skill work, yeah. Because again, it's not skill work if we're, really heading towards the edges of our ability.
Yeah, if it looks like shit, it's not skill work.
Exactly. Yeah, if it looks really brutal, you can't go into it and say, man, I hope I'm able to finish this, because you're trying to do a dedicated session to try to improve on something. Yeah. So it can be self-scaling. You can't allow yourself to call it while you're doing it. If it's weighted, obviously we'd ask you to hopefully just choose a better weight, on your next set or whatever it is. But also if it's high rep gymnastics, it's usually pretty easy to say to yourself, okay, like whatever 8 muscle ups for a games athlete's nothing crazy for them. What's nothing crazy for me? 4, 5, 6, whatever
Yep.
it is.
2.
We did it.
Hunter, what about the age group? The age group crew. Like I know that the phase structure is, very similar, and the focuses are all, spot on, the same kind of focus. Is it really more just volume? How often you're asking them to squat? All that good stuff.
Yeah, I think it's just continuing to we're putting the age group program is continuing to look and be more in line with somewhere between MFT and Hatchet. I like the not the exact volume, but somewhere that's probably a little bit more volume than Hatchet. We're only asking for those 3 pieces a day for Hatchet. Obviously age group is going to get a little bit more, but again, that's with the individual who's looking to be in that top 200, right, looking to go to the qualifier and beyond, while still making sure that the weights and volumes are appropriate. So we've still got it's kind of just a blend, a mix and mash of MFT and Hatchet in the volume that's appropriate for the masters. We've still got all the accessory work, which I think is just as good, if not better, than the maintenance stuff that we were doing before, and there will still continue to be that. But I think where the phase structure really benefits the age group athletes is the skill in the accessory column. It's just so many options. It's so many places to improve on little things that separate you a little bit further on the leaderboard than does for the games, like the individual games athlete.
Well, it's funny, that's flipped upside down a lot in that community, right? You see so many teens and so many masters with just unthinkable engines, right?
Yeah.
And then you see them kind of maybe get stuck in a certain place in a workout, whereas you get, the sort of that middle group. I don't know what else to call them, your individual CrossFit Games athletes, your team CrossFit Games athletes. 9 out of 10 are just so highly skilled and, have their spots where, I like this, this energy system's a little bit better than this one. So it's a very unique difference.
Yeah. And being able to, thinking about it from the perspective of the open, 1 or 2 reps, 1 or 2 handstand push-ups, muscle ups is I don't know if it's more. I think it is statistically. It would be probably more impactful than on the individual leaderboard for sure. Just being able to apply it outside of a Metcon and then come back and do it into the workouts is hugely important. So I don't know that thinking about the program itself as different as it is important to realize these columns these elements of the program itself are more beneficial to me than to somebody else. So it's just kind of personalizing it in that sense, knowing that the accessory and the skill column might be where you need to live in order to get those conditioning pieces, the lifts and whatnot up as far as your numbers go.
Right.
So yeah, I think that's for the age group athlete, that's where your mindset needs to be.
They're all willing to work hard. They just need to have those little pieces that are there to separate them from their competition, because all those masters and teens and everything, they're all understanding it's about hard work, but you might be lacking specifically in something very, very specific to you that doesn't apply to everybody else, or doesn't apply to people in general, that you need to focus on. So, rather than completely rewrite the program, it's all right, how can I help this group make that little 1% growth that allow them to down the road have 10% or 15% growth?
That's a really good way to think about it. Odds are for a lot of age group athletes, there's the 1 or 2 things that can really propel you up that leaderboard, whereas the top 100, 200 on the individual side is did I have a good day today? Did the pieces line up? For age group, it's a lot more capacity driven than
Yeah, and it's kind of a cool
those
concept.
Guys are fucking crazy. I'm not worried about their mental
mental
capacity.
It's kind of a cool concept because obviously within it being the age, they're opposites. Younger, older. But they share, it's very unique that they share that together, because the masters athlete just probably wouldn't still be in the game. They probably would have given up if they didn't have kind of that it factor when it came to like really grinding.
Yeah.
And then the teen hasn't been no serious stretch of their life where they haven't worked hard because they are in this thing that's teaching them, just as much about life as it is actual CrossFit.
Yeah.
So it's cool that they're there. Like our age, we're like jaded by only sprinting 10 feet when we were younger in our
I
sports.
did so many 5-10-5s.
Yeah.
God damn.
So yeah, it's a really cool concept, and it's nice to know that, a lot of the struggle with coaching some really talented athletes through this stuff is convincing them to work hard. Not a lot of that going down in the teen or masters community.
Yeah, definitely not.
Any final thoughts, Sherb or Hunter?
I'll just add for the age group online qualifiers, yes, there will be a program. The one that's up there currently, you're welcome to grab. It's from last year. This year's is going to be a little bit longer because last year it was like we knew when it was 5 weeks later after the open. So it was 5 weeks long.
It's tomorrow.
It's tomorrow. So that will be available toward the end of January. Keep your eyes out and you can purchase that. But
beautiful.
Yeah, that was my final thought.
And my final thought, just get back to working hard. I mean, for me,
get back to working hard after Sunday, January 5th. That's your day off.
One day off and then back to work.
Phase 2.
Now, for me, it's just, understand the purpose behind the pieces, take your time to read them, have the forethought before heading into them, reflect on them afterwards. There's a lot to be gained in terms of information and, obviously fitness as well. Gain as much as you can. Like, there's nothing wrong with journaling. Take extra time, talk to training partners, talk to your coach. There's a lot to be gained from 7 hard weeks of work. Don't miss out.
Yeah, for sure. For me, it's just right back to the beginning of the podcast. I'm so excited to continue to tell you guys this story of what we're trying to create with the athlete, marrying the concept of general physical preparedness program with true progression over the course of an entire season. If you're into the programming, if this is something that you like to think about as the athlete, makes you sort of buy in a little bit more, really try to pay attention to those details because we're going to continue to progress as we go. And we're peaking things at very specific times because we think they're more useful, or maybe you hold on to them for a little bit longer or shorter, based on the season itself. So really excited again to continue to tell you guys this story of what we're trying to do from, 7 weeks ago all the way around through, to the CrossFit Games and the Open. And then yippee doo dah, we get to start all over again next year.
Yeah.
I think we did it. I think that's it. As always, I am at Misfit Coach on Instagram. Feel free to slide into those DMs with any questions about programming, any questions about the Unprepared or Misfit Project podcasts. This episode of the podcast was brought to you by Pure Spectrum. Head to purespectrumcbd.com and use the code word Misfit. Head to sharpentheaxeco.com. Use the code word Unprepared. Head to teammisfit.com. You do not need a code to get 2 free weeks of programming.
Cheer.
Did I get that right?
Yep. Just
also,
ask us for it.
Make sure that you are paying attention to, we'll keep posting about it, but make sure you're paying attention to when 7 weeks prior to your sanctional is, because that is how long our sanctionals prep program is. That is 5.5 weeks of dedicated peaking. Hell Week is smack dab right in the middle. Hunter and I and Sherb wrote some very special things for you in Hell Week, a real true mental test per week to make sure that your mind is just as ready as your body. Then we go into a deload, and then we go into specific instructions on how we think you should spend your actual competition week. That is right at misfitathletics.com.
Thanks for watching.
Good luck, guys.
Goodbye.